This is just a mini tutorial to show you how to create this sleeve here and to create the 2 pattern pieces you'll need to create the sleeve. So what I want to do first is just have a look at where things are. So my seam line here is above the elbow line, so I just want to remember that. The sleeve length is probably a little bit longer than normal, so I maybe want to increase my sleeve length, and the top section is just as normal. So what I'm going to start with is my sleeve block, and this is a half scale one so that I can just demonstrate this really easily. So it's half the size of a full scale block, and it just acts as my stencils to start creating my own sewing pattern. And then I've got my pattern cutting ruler, and I've got a pen just so it shows up on the screen. Normally I'd use a propelling pencil so it's super accurate. So I'm going to start by creating the top section of the sleeve, so this bit up here. So all I want to do is trace around this top section and just think where I want that seam line to be. So I'm going to have it so my seam line comes about here, and then I'm going to trace around the rest of the block like so, marking on all my notches so I know when I'm sewing it up, it's going to match up with my front and back bodice pieces as well with their notches, and just marking on this center line at the top because that will match up with your shoulder seam. So I've just marked this on this side, and then I just want to bring it over to the other side. So using my 90-degree line on my pattern cutter ruler, which is here, and just lining that up with the edge and bringing it across there. Then that is my top piece done. And then for the bottom piece here, it's actually probably just a rectangle because I've got gathers here, which would have been the same size as the bottom, so it can just be a rectangle. So there's no point me drawing a pattern piece for it because you can just mark that on the fabric. So all I want to do is work out the size of this pattern piece here. So what we want is we want the gathered section here, and generally double the amount of fabric creates a really nice gather with this kind of fabric. So all I want to do is measure along here and double it for my top length. So this is 16.5 centimeters. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle to represent this so I can just visually see it. So this is 16.5. So I want to double that, which would be 33 centimeters along this top here. But then the height here, I want it to be a bit lower, bit longer than where a sleeve would normally come. So I'm just going to measure down from where this top section comes to, all the way down to the bottom. And then I'm going to add a bit more so that I've got that longer length I'm looking for. So I'm going to do it about 17 centimeters, which comes to about here, so it's a little bit longer. So this here is going to be 17 centimeters, which means in reality, this rectangle is going to be a lot longer in proportion. So you can just ignore this line. So this would represent the kind of shape you're going to cut out of fabric to create that bottom piece. And then what you would do if you were creating a pattern piece for this, to mark it as gathered, all you would do is do a wiggly line like so with an arrow. And then this is going to be sewn onto this piece here. But of course, at the moment, we don't have any hem or seam allowances. So you want to make sure you're always adding your hem and seam allowances last. So I'm going to do 1 centimeter seam allowances on everything. And I'm even going to do a 1 centimeter hem just because I want a really fine hem like you can see here. So a really narrow hem. So I just want to add 1 centimeter around the edge of everything. So that means I've got 2 sides here, 2 sides here. So I want to add 2 centimeters to all of this, which then makes this 35 centimeters, including my 1 centimeter seam allowance, makes this 19 centimeters, including my 1 centimeter seam allowance. And then all I want to do is add on 1 centimeter seam allowances around the rest of this as well. So I'm just using my ruler with its 1 centimeter increment line, and it just makes it really easy to add on all of your seam allowance lines. And then, of course, I just want to mark on any annotations. So the grain line and the grain line on this would go this way as well. And then, of course, I'm going to write on what it is. So top And there we have what you'd want to cut out of your sewing pattern to create this sleeve. So you want to cut out this rectangle and this top piece, and then of course you can create a really nice sleeve with a big gathered bottom section.